You wouldn't believe it by looking at me, but I'm only 18.
We ain't even got started yet. I'm like, I've lost all track.
And there's been clients in the past where they're like, I've been passed from this person to that person. That's growth. That's us giving you direct attention by hiring people and training people.
What's going to go into that house, and then we look at that, lay it out, put it in the POs, get it out for the jobs. That way everything's ready to go, hopefully as seamless as possible.
How can we communicate with you in a way to where you feel heard and there is a level of transparency and, you know, to where you know what's going on and we know what you expect from us. We do have boundaries involved in that. Like, we're not going to answer phone calls at 9:00 at night, but a lot of it's just like a marriage. It's just, how do we communicate that's suitable for you and suitable for us? And those are, when we're able to do that, those are great.
All right, guys, welcome to the Barndo Show. And
This is going to be great.
this is going to be a good one. So you got four of us sitting here at the table. We got Heath, who's our head of purchasing for the company. We got Nick, director of construction, and then me and Ross here, man. And we ain't even got started yet. I'm like, I've lost all track. Jenna's pissed because she gave us a whole formal outline, and now here we are.
You'll need to text that outline to me so we can go back over it.
So we're gonna laugh. So much has happened in the last 3 minutes.
We need a teleprompter.
We went from somebody talking about monkeys to the Step Brothers movie. Oh my God. Well, I guess we'll kick it off. Heath, you've never been on the show before, so tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I'm Heath, kind of run the purchasing department, just kind of make sure everything's loaded in the front end, making sure we've keeping our supply of doors, windows, trusses, lumber, sided, pretty much everything it takes to build the house. We sign up the subs, negotiate with them, make sure everything's good. Do a little bit of everything, honestly.
Super easy job then, huh?
Yeah. No stress. You wouldn't believe it by looking at me, but I'm only 18.
Yeah, Heath has been with the company for forever. I think he got probably some of the longest tenure in the company, and done a variety of different things. And we just keep him locked up in a closet. he's just always in there, like making sure. Like, you do a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
He's the full chameleon.
He like does plan reviews. So like when stuff comes out of design, if you're wondering like, hey, your plan come out of design and your sales agent's there and you're waiting on something, you're waiting on Heath to review it to make sure that we can actually build it, and make sure that it's viable and that there's not nothing crazy, that's going to be a curveball. If you are one of those people that want to put a slide and a rock wall in your house, Heath is also the gentleman that gets to go figure out how to make that possible. And then your sales agent is bringing him treats to try to convince him not to just say no.
I know. I always feel like sales agents are like, God, now it's got to go to Heath. He's going to say no about this. But yeah, it's kind of part of it. We got to make sure we set that proper expectation for the client, because if you don't, then they're in the field. I'm like, what do you mean I can't have the slide from McDonald's? They told me I could.
Yeah. We need no men. We got two of them on the show today. Yeah. We got King No and Vice President No. But
King No.
Like for and the guys, it started with me, and I would say yes to anything. But like anything. I remember one of the first builds that we were negotiating with. There was a lady moving here from Arizona, and she was a custom car collector, and it was her and her brother were moving here, and they were friends with an attorney here in the upstate, and we got connected to them, and they had when I say car collect, like a cars, massive. They wanted to build like a 10,000 square foot building to house all their cars in, and then build like a 2-story, 2,200 square foot down, 2,200 square foot up, like two like duplex basically inside of this thing. And at this point, I'm like, sure, we can do that. And then she was like, now my kitchen island, I've got a Buick something. I don't even know. I'm not a car guy.
I can tell you never even brought this to me because I would have said no.
Yeah. She was like, I got pieces of an old Buick and I want to build that in custom to my island. She's like, that's something y'all can handle? I'm like, of course we can. We just finished up a Buick island, but But I just remember having that conversation with her and like going into it and looking at paper and thinking it's going to cost $1 billion to do this. And fortunately, she didn't move to South Carolina. But that was hilarious. And like there's so many things like that. Like the one cool thing about barndominiums is the people that buy them are as fun as the people that build them, and they all have no shortage of ideas, right? And like everybody has this dream, and like we attract renegade rebel type personality, not all, but a bunch, and they're just wanting to do something so far out of the bounds of normal that it's not uncommon. Yes, we have quoted pickleball courts and
Rock walls,
rock walls and
Full basketball courts.
like
pickleball.
Nick's resigning right now. He's like, I didn't even know about all this stuff. But having people that say no, or people that at least propose a question of like, who in the hell is going to install it? That's a good thing to have. That's a really good thing to have, because you can get yourself swamped under with all these caveats. And a lot of times, some of that stuff's like big dream stuff. And then when you start communicating price, it stays a dream. Like sounds like it's gonna be something cool to do in the future, but I don't got an extra $150,000 to turn my garage into this like play place. And so, but like part of that is building to where we are today. So in the beginning, it was me and Ross. And like he said, he didn't even hear about that one. But like back then, it would be I collect the data, I call Ross, he'd be like, sounds like about 80 grand, and we would just go with it. And like we'd figure that out. We figured our way out of so many things like that. And then you bring on guys with seasons of building and like construction knowledge, and you being on the backside of that, like in between all these different things, to where it's easier now to justify something to a client by positioning back with what it's going to cost, and let them be the ones to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's fun. It's fun. There's our Slack channels. Oh my God. Like the stuff that people are always in there asking about, and like seeing that dynamic. I remember
He's not even wanting to smile about it.
No, I'm listening.
Nick is furious right now.
He's over here like,
not at all.
But I remember somebody come up with a spreadsheet. They were like, "This is the purchase request hub."
Yeah.
And I saw it.
We still have it.
I know,
It's
I
still
know.
there.
But I remember seeing
Look
it.
at it every day.
And I was in Heath's office with that. And I'm like, "What are you looking at?" And he was like, "The purchase request hub." And there was 9,000 things on there. I was like, "How are you pricing all this?" He was like, "As best I can." As best I can. And thus was born Standards.
Yes.
So if you're dreaming of something crazy, can we do it? Absolutely we can. Is it normal? No, but we can. And there's just a process to it. And we have to go out and find people that can fill those places inside the company and give the attention to detail to it, because I'm a dreamer, right? Like people start talking about stuff like that, I get light. I'm just like, woo, yeah, I can't wait. We're going to do an HGTV episode here. Like when we get this one done,
let's
like,
go for it.
Like I remember the first time someone brought up pickleball court, and my comment was, as long as I can come over here and beat you.
Yeah.
Like the first game's me beating you, we'll put it in. And now like just having the ability to have people that like, that's not uncommon. Like if somebody came to you, you have what it's going to cost, and you could turn around and deliver it back. And a lot of times, like I said, people don't want to do it when they find out some of the costs on the backside.
It's usually that, or they come back and it's, well, I got a cousin that can do it.
Yeah.
So can we send him in mid-bills? No, absolutely
No. He
not.
can come in when we're
He
done.
can come in as soon as we walk off the job site and we're done. We pull that permit. Have at
And if
it.
you want a pickleball court, the best thing you could do is just build the building big enough for one, and then when we give you the keys, call your pickleball people and let them come build you a court.
Yeah.
We're willing to sacrifice our markup on the pickleball court
Yeah.
and let you work directly with the pickleball people, because our objective is to get you in your home and help as many people as possible do that, right? So
Exactly.
try to keep the affirmative.
Exactly.
And then
10-4.
Nick, you've been on the show before, but tell everybody who you are and kind of what you do, other than say no to cool things.
I'm Nick. I'm the director of construction. So there is actually a thing on my desk that says chaos coordinator. So I deal with everything production, growing into new areas, project managers, everything that has to do with dirt to keys on all builds. And then I'm also involved in the purchasing process, And I think what's interesting, and I think what a lot of people that haven't built houses before or aren't familiar with this process don't understand is that everything is like an engine on a car. Like everything has to work in sync. You have all these different people in different departments and all these different subcontractors. We have to have a way to where what your expectation is communicated to everybody, and it's a resource thing. And I think just piggybacking off of what you said, since I'm Captain No,
King.
in
King
order
no.
in
King
order
No.
for us to do volume and build houses in a reasonable amount of time, we just have to look at what resources we have to offer and which items fit within those resources and time and which ones don't. There's also a backside to things too. We look at liability and warranty too. We would never send somebody to do anything on your job that wouldn't warranty it. Because if it fell apart after you moved in, you would be really unhappy if we said, well, we found some dude on Craigslist and he doesn't have warranty. So there's other reasons why we say no other than it's challenging and we don't want to do it.
So Heath's new title is Craigslist Prevention Coordinator.
Dear God.
Ross, or are you being too quiet, Ross?
I'm just sitting here watching.
Ross is just thankful that he doesn't have to be the
watching
king no
Nick,
anymore.
and Nick came in the first time with us, and he was like, "Oh yeah, man, I got this, got that." Now I can see like he's in World War III now, and he's like, "I'm the chaos coordinator, and
As a combat
I'm going
veteran.
to say no because of liability reasons." Can someone put a Band-Aid on my arm?
We're just subtly roasting Nick the whole time. Like,
I love you. I
You
love
guys
you.
should have
man.
given me the memo
Guys,
before I
this
came
is
here
the-
that this was a Nick roast.
We're gonna tan it up a purple.
Heath had to take his tux off in the parking lot because
Yeah,
he thought
they wouldn't let
he
me
thought it
wear
was a formal event.
Yeah.
Right. Holy cow!
So, like, I guess this, with all things and growing all the time, people see my face all the time. And, like, I promise you, this is not the TJ show. I'm so far removed from
It's definitely the TJ show.
critical decisions that are made. Like, I have no shortage of vision, no shortage of dreams and aspirations. But at the same time, like, there's a team of people that work behind the scenes, like Heath. Like, a lot of people never see Heath or know Heath, or like, but like he literally is responsible for so much of pre-build and then the transition into build. He's married to projects almost from conception to keys.
Yeah.
And you might not ever even meet him. We have tons of teammates like that. Like there's people that you might not ever meet or know, and they're working hours on your project, sight unseen, and you don't know them. So that, like, this is just a great opportunity to bring people on and like talk a little bit about some of the stuff that people don't know or they don't think about. It's not, everybody's thinking about the shiny object, right? Like this barn dough in the middle of the field is going to be cool. But the journey to get there requires a lot. And one of the things that separates us from, some builders, not all, there's some great builders out there. There's some phenomenal ones. And the longer we do this, I meet more and more of them. And like, I learn from them. But there's a lot of people, I think, that look at this kind of like a side hustle, right? Like, hey, we build barns. We could do a barn dominium. Ain't no big deal. And then you see the results of that. And so you see people that are encountering crazy frustration, and it creates tension in the marketplace, and everybody comes in with their sword out and their shield up, and they're ready to fight you from day one. And what we're trying to do is create a process that's able to be duplicated in multiple markets. We're doing that now. And our goal is to continue to do it. But to create something that gives people what they want as efficiently as they could possibly get it. And it goes with having a team like this. And so I love getting the opportunity to bring you guys on here. 'Cause I tell everybody that calls me about construction stuff, I'm like, you talk Nick, he's way smarter than me. You're talking about how to build a house. Don't ask me, brother. I'll help you come up with an awesome pin board, right? But you're on your own when you go sit down with Nick and Heath to talk about it.
Yeah.
But no, like just some of the behind the scenes stuff. So talk about what's something, Heath, that you do on a regular basis that's intricate to the process here, but maybe people don't even know that it exists.
Well, right now, like our big thing is we're trying to implement a pre-construction PO system. So that way we have everything on like a pre-order or pre-designation schedule. So that way when the job comes live, we release all that at one time. So that way all the subs get their POs, all the vendors get their orders. That way we can help get these things out of the ground a lot quicker. And it's been a huge undertaking. And honestly, most of that has fallen on my assistant Anna, she's kind of is the one bullheading that, and you saw her spreadsheet that she keeps. It was like a rainbow of
like
different
paint by
color.
number.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's one of the biggest things. Like right now, as far as for the construction guys, we're doing, and a lot of that comes, like I say, we deal with it from conception to keys. So a lot of that's in the conception side because they're the guys picking, or guys or girls that are picking what's going to go into that house. So then we look at that, lay it out, put it in the POs, get it out for the jobs. That way everything's ready to go. Hopefully as seamless as possible.
Yep. And that's a big piece that, like, for us, we're delivering a product, right?
Mhm.
And just like anything in the world, if it was an assembly line, like if you were to come in and you were to just have parts that are necessary and you run the assembly line, what you'll find out really quickly is this area of the assembly line is using parts 3 times faster than this area. So if you just stock everybody at a stock level without really pulling the hood up and looking at it and understanding usage and consumption rates and where your log jams are and where things get hung up, you're set up for failure because these guys are going to have more than enough materials and not enough work. These guys are going to have more work than they can handle, but not enough materials and all that stuff. So like you have come in and really shine the light on log jams and help us identify that. So like, believe it or not, guys, there's a huge hurdle in going from 10 barns to 100 barns, from 100 to 200, 200 to 500. And not only that, throw in the caveat that they're not all being built here. To go from Duncan to Duncan and Somerville, from Duncan, Somerville, and Dunn, now Duncan, Somerville, Dunn, and Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to that, we're in Charlotte, Columbia, and Conway.
Yeah.
That with no office but staff on the ground there,
Yeah.
and all of these places have different requirements, different things that are true there, different subcontractors, different aspects of that build. So now we're not just running an assembly line; we're running multiple.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that create log jams in different environments, and so like there's no one man that can solve that problem. That is a team. And so what we've tried to do is look at that process from start to finish and constantly improve. One of the core values is always growing. That doesn't necessarily mean more and more and more. It means growing our skills, our abilities, our team, our attention to detail, our everything about it. And we're always solving a different puzzle. You say this all the time. Like, you're like, when I came in, we were trying to change the cars on an Indy car while it was running around the track. And that's true. And so now we figured out like, hey, we better schedule pit stops, And so we're always thinking ahead. So, one of the things that Ross and I talked about in an earlier episode was, we're human. Like we're going to make mistakes and we fix them though. Like, and we're trying to create an environment where the company and the staff is growing faster than the market spread so that we can stay on top of it. Like today we're building 135, 140 houses for the 2024 calendar year.
Yeah, we have 133 on our builder train list right now.
Right. So like,
active.
yeah. So you got 133 builds going, but you're not planning your department right now and staffing around 133. We're thinking about 2025 where we know
233.
Yeah, right now I think there's 190 slated for 2025 today. And so we're always having to solve that problem ahead. And so, getting the ramp up in the beginning, it was, hey, we got really good at 10 and then we had 100. And so we were playing catch up. And now we're kind of in a place where we're always being prepared to build 400 when we're only building 250 so that we can stay ahead of the curve. And, that's growing pains, man. It's learning things. And like in the beginning when Ross was handling 50% of it and I'm handling 50% of it, and then you start growing out teams. And so if you look a little bit at the org chart here, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of changes happening. You've got a great leadership team. Nick, you stepped in director of construction and you handle literally, you said it, anything related to construction, I'm in charge of. That doesn't mean you're doing it, right? That doesn't mean that you're the one doing it. And so you went in and created segments inside that business. You got Billy, whose whole mission in life is to see schedules just on time. Why are they off? What does that and what does that do? It does a couple things. One is it gives us better predictability, right? It gives us better visibility, and knowing what we have capacity for, where we need to make improvements, but it also increases communication to the client. If that schedule is updated and live and on track, clients are in the hub with it. It's live. They can see it. You can click right there. You could be on day 26 and you can click on it and see when the final day is projected to be. and then it's always updating. And so that deliverable date is moving back and forth, and you're seeing, and the better that schedule is, the better communication is, the better everything's planned. If there's a pivot on a job because there's a delay or something happens, like we got, the other day, me and you were arguing on the phone about trim, and like we know that's happening. And so the caveat is like Heath sees that schedule update. He's moving those trades around to other projects, getting them. Now they're ahead of schedule. You got Scott building the house 3 months ahead of schedule. And we're like, contrary to that, you got one over here is 2 weeks behind schedule. All that stuff plays into a master plan. And like, are we experts at it? Heck no. But we get better and better every single day,
Yeah.
When things come up, we learn from it. And I was going to say, too, I think a really good analogy is, if there's a really, really popular, I don't know if I'm allowed to say Chick-fil-A, but say Chick-fil-A, everybody loves Chick-fil-A. And what do they love about it? It's consistent. They're quick, all these things. How do we replicate that in other markets? We have to have systems, processes, standards, and that's why we have to do things a certain way. So when you're moving into other markets and you're communicating with different electricians, different plumbers, different framers, how do we communicate what our standards are and what our expectations are in order to replicate the same thing that's worked here? That's a lot of work. So there's a lot of times where clients don't see somebody on their job and they think they're not doing anything on my job, but we're spending hours in the office negotiating pricing for your job, scheduling material for your job, sometimes having meetings about your job. So there's a lot of behind the scenes that people don't see. And why are employees at these places successful? Because there is a step-by-step playbook on how to make everything consistent. You can go to a different store anywhere in the country and get the same thing. Now, in building, that's not 100% perfect, but that's our goal, is to have standards and be able to replicate it in different areas. And like building countertops on top of cars, that would be really cool, but we'd only be able to do 5 houses a year that way.
Yeah.
So in order for us to get this product out and serve more clients and try to be consistent with the client, experience, expectation, how many days it takes us to build the house, we have to look at all those X's and O's and the resources that we have and how we use those resources to try to get that done. And that's the side of building I don't think anybody sees.
Oh, for sure they don't. And then, and here's the thing: is if there's an advantage to a builder that's a hands-on builder, like I got a guy. There's a guy here in Upstate that builds phenomenal buildings, and he's like an acquaintance. I wouldn't say we're friends, like we're friendly, but he's on job. Something goes off schedule. We have another buddy, Tim, that builds phenomenal homes. Like you talk about award-winning homes, the dude is the standard for that. Like he wins the top award in the state every year for
years.
All he has to do is publish. I'm throwing my name in the hat, and people don't even compete because it's like he's going to win. He's on that job all the time, and we had lunch with him not long ago, and we were like, whatever prevented you from building more? He's like, the thought of having to take what I know and put it into another human's brain. That's a ceiling. And so to do that and like to embrace growth and have demand. Look, we're cutting the ribbon on Knoxville on the 24th of August, and I made a post on my social yesterday because the signs went up, right? And so Amanda put the signs in on our Slack channel, and I posted, and I was like, this is a cool moment, right? Like, and she did not go skimpy on signs. Like, it's the biggest signs in the history of the company. And so I posted this on social, and one of the first comments on that post was, does this mean you can build in Kentucky now? So there's,
yes,
it's like,
somebody go give him some medicine.
Like is one of those, like, people have wanted our product in Tennessee for years, and we're there, right? And we have projects going there now. We've been in the Tennessee market for a few months building. We just haven't cut our office, officially opened the office there yet. But that's coming now. And then, like I say, we celebrate that. And in a moment of being like, hey, Tennessee, we're here for you now. There's always someone.
Where's the next spot?
Like, please come here. Like, there's no shortage of it. And in order to go out and do that, because I want that. I want people to be able to build our products there. I like that there's demand for our products there. I like that there's somebody there that's looking at what we're doing going, I wish they were here. And we can't ever lose that.
The other thing is like, our last podcast, we talked about, if you have a complaint, that situation. When we open offices or we have a release, holy cow, if you're building with us, we have had a lot of backlash where people are like, something's going wrong on their job, or there's a little bit more of a time, and they're like, well, if y'all weren't focused on opening an office in Knoxville, Tennessee, you'd have time to work here. And we're going, this is a positive experience for y'all as well as for us. When a company is thriving and growing, rest assured, you are safe.
Yep.
If a company is struggling to keep its doors open and you're a client of that company, get scared.
Yep.
Get scared.
Yep.
This should be a celebration for you.
Right.
And then that's the thing is a lot of times people get, caught in the weeds.
Yeah. Well, it's emotional.
Yeah.
Like it's an emotional roller coaster to have all your money tied up in something. So like, I've talked about that a million times. The analogy of like people get pissed and write on Facebook about Wendy's.
Mhm.
Like if you're mad at Wendy's for getting your hamburger order wrong, how much more mad are you at a builder for having a delay on job?
Yeah.
It's just part of the game.
Yeah.
It's not personal. It's not anything like that.
Yeah.
Like those people, there's people that have been so angry and frustrated, and I get it. And you see those people later. Like we were, I shared the story before, like playing Top Golf, and the guy comes out, and he's like, "I got you covered." He manages the Top Golf Center. He's like, it's all me, bro. I got you." And I'm like, "I appreciate you." There was a moment in time during the construction of his home where I was like, "That dude will rip the flesh off of my body." Like but it's normal. It's normal. And the thing is like it's really hard for one person to be the vessel of all of that and simultaneously try to build and grow and design and bring energy to the next client. But when you have a team of people that are dedicated, that gets better too, because now like the biggest thing is being heard, and every human being has a capacity limit of what information they can receive and what they can provide. And so the more people you have on a team and the more dedicated that someone is, the fact that Heath literally sits down and he's focused solely on issuing purchase orders and receiving completed work and churning that, he's not thinking about it as much, right? He's having conversations with Heath, but Heath is handling that piece of the business. Same thing with Billy. Billy's thinking about schedules. You're not having to think about schedules every day. Billy's thinking about schedules. Those kind of things position people to where now when that moment arises, like your project manager is probably equally as stressed as you are, right? Your area manager, stressed. Nick gets on the phone and he's cool, calm, and collective. He allows you a moment to just be real, right? And realize like, okay, I feel better now. I just needed to say it, And so that's all part of the game. Like if you're a builder out there and you're worried about somebody getting upset with you, don't build. Like, don't build. It's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like it's just part of human expression.
The other thing we need to touch base on is as we grow, like you were talking about earlier about growing in these areas, we go from 50 builds to 100 builds to 150 builds to 200 builds. We go from 10 people to 20 people to 30 people to 40 people to 50 people. And there's been clients in the past where they're like, I've been passed from this person to that person. That's growth. That's us giving you direct attention by hiring people and training people to give you one single person to say, hey, bleed with them.
Yep.
Go and be with them.
You just want to be like, you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean,
that was a problem.
Well, it's not
remove that problem.
Well, and the reality of it is as growth happens, like if you've got a project manager and he's run the ball on your job, and he's simultaneously running 8 or 10. And now we've hired someone new in the area, and now they're running your job. They only have 3 or 4, and the other guy only has 3 or 4. It's division of responsibility. You get more time and dedication.
That's right.
But it's a change, and people don't like change. And here's the thing: we talk a lot about like that experience. We have more positive feedback than we have any negative feedback. It's 10-1, if not 50-1. And the positive feedback is what keeps us going because we know, right? But here's the thing: people that bring anything else to the table, sometimes people are afraid to show any kind of emotion, and that's crazy too, because then it bottles up and you end up with a catastrophic event where people are just so unhinged in the moment. It's easier to just talk about it. We tell people on the front end, part of the expectations. I remember back when we used to do OBX, right? We would have these onboarding experiences, and we'd bring all these families in and do the tour buses and take them on there. And like, there's families there, and they would sit in a room and they would go through all their selections and do all this stuff in like this group setting and get to go look at properties. And then I would sit down and talk to them about 80-20 principle. And I'd say, look, 80% of this is going to be great. 20% of it's going to suck. And when it happens, I need you to stick it in your 20. You know, I'm telling you right now, from the owner to your ear, there will be a moment on this job where you are going to lose it over something. And it's going to be super important to you. It's going to be part of the process to us, right? It will correct itself. Plan for it. And I don't care if you build with us or build with anybody. If you go into a job thinking everything's going to be absolutely perfect from
You
start to
lost your
finish,
mind.
and that they're going to put a date on your contract and that date's just going to be magic, does it happen? Yeah, probably 50% of the time, right? But 50% of the time, it's before. We have those too. We don't talk about them because nobody talks about the massive wins. Everybody gets hummed in on like what causes a delay, you know? So delays are super important to people. And then people kind of thrive on that. I mean, it's what's the word for it? Like even the news channels, like they don't report on good stuff because they get more out of sensationalism, right? There's more sensation to a bad experience, and it's not just us guys. Like if you go on a group, like you go to the Barnuminium Designs and Layout pages, there's 600,000 people in there and they're talking, and you just look through the posts, you will see more people with negative. That you could ask a question. And there'll be 75 comments, and 73 of them are telling you you're the biggest idiot in the world, and 2 of them will be someone providing you helpful information. The best advice I could give you is read the 2. Just read the 2, because everybody's got an opinion, and it's easy to have opinion when you don't have anything invested, right? So those are just some of the caveats. I don't even know how we got down that wormhole, but
well, I mean, that's like, I used to sit in on the RSB meetings, the Ready Set Barndos, where they're moving kind of that transition from sales to construction. And that was always the question. When am I going to be done? Well, I can tell you we like for it to take this long, but I always told them, you never know. There's a lot that can happen in this time frame. You got weather. There could be material delays. I said, you know, there's all just tons of things that could happen. That's why we can't tell you when you start your build, your finish date's here.
Yeah.
And I always try to tell them, you know, there's going to be things you don't like. There's going to be things that come up. Remember, we're still building the house. So you may go in there and say, well, that wall don't look quite right. Well, the wall's not finished. You know, give it some time. If it still don't look right at punch out, just bring it up in the front end. But it's a good point to remember that it's not always going to be the way it looks in the construction side. It's sometimes you have to kind of rough it in to get it finished. So,
well, I can remember in the early days, and this happens all the time. It's not like it's just something new, but I remember walking through a build with a client, and they were so furious that there was mud on the floor in their house, and the husband's just mad because he's like, it's unclean. I'm like, well, the problem is it's a construction site. These guys have to get in the house. It rained. There's mud on their boots. They're in here. They're doing their thing, right? And I'm like, they will, like, when that mud dries, they'll sweep it up, sweep it out, and it'll be gone. Like they're gonna sweep out anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is part of the process. You just happen to be here during this moment. Believe it or not, if you had life-saving heart surgery, you would sing the praises of the surgeon. But if you would have been sitting in the room when they cracked you open, you'd be like, there's blood everywhere. And in your mind, you're like, that means someone's dying, right? But sometimes it's got to get bloody to save a life.
Company of analogies.
Yeah, it's just but the reality of it is this: it's a construction site. And here's the funny part: was the wife was more mad because she was like, it doesn't matter if you sweep it; it's going to stain the concrete. There's going to be that you will never get that stain out. And I'm like, we're putting LVP over it. She's like, I know, but it'll still be there, and it's going to drive me crazy. And I'm like, what? It's not even going to be seen.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's just little things. And like in their mind in that moment, because in that particular moment, that's all they can see. And I guess that's one of the hardest parts about being in the industry is you know what the outcome's going to look like. But I would say 80% of the people that build do not have the ability to see the future. They can only see the present. And so a lot of that is, you know, delivering expectations. You know, they sign a paper now that says, hey, this is an active construction site. You will see debris. You will see stuff. There's a chance a window might get broken, right? It's all going to be repaired and fixed. That's just part of construction. It's human beings building it. Like if we could send a robot out there and he could meticulously build it, like, you know, wonderful. And one day we might, if Elon Musk lives long enough. But the reality is you got human interaction. People get sick. People get delayed. There's weather. There's natural disasters. There's all kinds of things that happen that are out of everybody's control. And so that's just part of the process.
The other issue is this. So just keep in mind, the process of building a house is extremely easy when it's in a neighborhood and the builder has control of that neighborhood.
Mhm.
But every build we are building is on your dirt. Every variable that comes with building houses is an extreme process when it's
Yeah.
on your dirt.
Exactly.
We have driveways that are 1,000-foot long.
Mm-hmm.
1,000-foot long. We have a situation over in Woodruff right now where from the driveway to the house, the train is literally doing this up and down and up and down. We're trying to bury a water line. He's trying to grade it. And this water line has gone through the ground at an even 6 foot or 5 foot deep or 3 foot deep, whatever the depth is. They tried to get it deep enough for him to grade. Well, now he's unearthed it. And we have to now bury it deeper.
Mhm.
That's a variable that we didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, holy cow.
Yeah, and people also
It's a different monster.
people also don't realize, and this is something that the purchasing department has played a big hand in too, that we have to have subcontractor agreements. Like they're basically operating agreements with all of our subs that like if A and B are true, then it's C.
Mhm.
And that's how we make it fair for everybody. And we do our best to deliver a consistent project, deliver consistent grading quotes. But we do run into situations to where, we go out there and we look at the land and we say, yeah, this based on what I can see, this is the cost to put this driveway in, to do this grading. And then we start digging and find a bunch of old tires buried under the dirt where there's no compatible soil. And people got to understand that, some of those things are unforeseen. When you're in a subdivision, everything is mass graded. Everything is already flat.
Mhm.
The developer takes care of all that before building commences.
Yeah.
When we're on your land, we don't know. 100 years ago, it might have been a landfill. We don't know.
And to fill in on that production side, like if they unearth a landfill and had to repair it, they're building that into the cost of that home when it's done.
Mhm.
Versus on your dirt.
Exactly.
It's your responsibility, and we try our best to mitigate risk for you. We do a thorough job of getting all the costs in.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always something. There's always going to be some surprise along the way that's a surprise to both of us. And I think setting the bar, and you're talking about subcontractor agreements, that's because we hold a high priority to quality.
Mhm.
We won't let somebody work on a job with us that's uninsured, doesn't carry the appropriate coverage, doesn't have good reputation, doesn't build to the standards and adhere to the standards in which we do it. Like we'll run them off a job site in
we'll cut
a
'em
minute.
quick.
And so like knowing that is this, when you go into an agreement to build, you and the builder are partners, right? Subcontractors are people who we have brought in to do it. And if they do a poor job, you're going to be disappointed. We're equally disappointed. I've never seen an instance where something was truly done wrong that we defended
the sub.
Mhm.
Ever.
It doesn't happen.
Mhm.
But, and I get it. Part of it is like me versus you. There was a lady that commented on a clip I shared on Facebook, and she was like, it was just, I did it with the guys from Worldwide Steel. We were talking about like, things to help first time builders. Like if you're a home buyer, your first time, here's some things to look for. And I shared it. I was like, hey, hopefully somebody finds value. And then everybody's like, you got to vet your builder. And I was like, yeah. And this lady was like, first and foremost, vet your builder, write your own contract, be a pain in their side. You show up every day. You inspect everything. You look at everything. You challenge every decision they make. You do this and that and this and the other. And I was like, don't do that. Don't do that. And, and I said that comes from being burnt.
Yeah.
It's an appropriate emotional response, but it's not logical at all.
Yeah.
And then she followed it up with like, why that happened to her. Like we
Mhm.
wanted to specify specific things in the contract, all that kind of stuff. The biggest thing is this: find someone you can trust.
Yeah.
Find someone you can trust.
Absolutely.
And if you invested in that trust them. Don't lose sight of the trust. Don't lose it. It'd be like if you invested in the stock market. Here goes another analogy. If you invested in the stock market and you were bought in on the concept and you knew that it was going to happen, and then the market took a downturn and you just said, I'm selling everything.
Yeah.
I'm out. I want out.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take a loss. But in your mind, you know that in the next year, it's going to do what it did. This is just a bump in the road.
Right.
Mhm.
Nobody would react that way. Why are you reacting that way when you've invested $500,000 into a build? Right? This is a dip in the market, but we know where it's going. Hold tight. We're all in this together. We want to get to the end, and it's going to be great when we get there. Don't lose your mind.
Okay,
Right.
so let's upswing this the other way, because this has been most of a negative, like, don't do this, don't do that. So going back, the jobs that you run right now, who have positive clients, they're happy, they do have some questions. how smooth are their builds, Nick?
They're smooth, and I'll tell you,
They're efficient.
TJ always talks about this too, that we're a team fighting against the obstacles, and weather, subcontractors, delays on material, but clients can also be a huge obstacle, and it's an expectation game, because you got to think, and this is another analogy, but it's like dating. Every builder is not for every client, and every client's not for every builder.
Yeah.
If you want someone's undivided every second attention, and you want every single detail tailor-made to your liking, what you pay a custom builder is astronomically different than what we charge.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that want it as cheap as they possibly can get it. That's your track home builder. We're somewhere comfortably in the middle, but we also have to, we don't just have one client. We have 100 clients. So like, how do we give each client the best experience that we can, the best form of communication that we can, try to be transparent about what's going on, set expectations in the beginning, like not over-promising and under-delivering, that, hey, our target is this much to build your house. This is construction. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Because what we don't want you to do is tell the apartment that you're renting from that your lease will be up on this day, and then you have nowhere to live because it takes us 3 weeks longer to build your house. And that's why we don't give you a date, because we don't want to set you up to be disappointed. So all of this is an expectation game. And I think that if there's a little bit of trust in the process and allow us to explain things and allow us to do our job, the jobs go much smoother. And it's all about, expectations going into it. What are your expectations? And just like you were talking about with the mud on the slab, there are things that are important to different people. There's some people that could care, don't care about that, but they care about something else. And, we do our best to be consistent. We have really, really strict subcontractor agreements where they're supposed to clean up after themselves before they leave. We have standards on how we want things installed, how we want wires ran. And we do that so we can ensure that we're consistent on our values and our standards on each build. So there's a lot of behind the scenes we do. We don't just go into a market and just hire random people and say, here, build this house. I mean, there are so many contractual agreements and standards and expectations. And, we hold our subs accountable too. I mean, they know if they cause a delay, it costs them money. Delays cost us money, so there's a lot more that goes into it. But yeah, I will say that, clients that work with us and trust the process, we have a lot of builds that are really enjoyable. I mean,
They're super
we have
efficient.
people that put their kids' handprints on their front porch. We love taking pictures with clients. I mean, we want the process to be enjoyable. We don't want it.
We have more raving fans than we have upset clients.
Absolutely.
And we never want people to be afraid to ask questions and be like, I don't want to be that client, because that's not the case. It's all about how you ask the question, how you receive the data we give you back. Like, like I say, I've been here with this company pretty much since the beginning, and I've been through all, like, now I never see client messages unless somebody's like, hey, did you see this? And I'm like, no, let me go in here and find it. But the thing is, it's all like based on how you communicate it and how you receive what we tell you. If hey, I just saw this and was kind of wondering, and Nick's like, hey, well, it's not done yet. We'll add that in there. It's going to look like this when it's finished. This is just kind of, in the process of it. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. I just wasn't sure. We built right before I started with Barndo with another builder, and he had told us, he's like, man, you guys were great. And I felt like I asked a lot of questions just because there's things I didn't know at the time. And he was like, yeah, he's like, yeah, but like I would tell you, oh, okay, that's cool. I think that's the biggest thing is don't look at your project manager or whoever you're communicating with as like your adversary. Look at, hey, I just need to know, let's figure this out. Or, hey, this is, wrong floor color. It's supposed to be this, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But the harder you make it is just the harder the whole process ends.
Well, it's
up
like a
being.
relationship. Communication is everything.
Yeah.
Like if you have a marriage with no communication, your marriage will fail. If you communicate in a healthy way and say, hey, I'm frustrated and this is why, and give the other person an opportunity and find common ground. Like, every client is different, and project managers have to learn that. There are clients that are okay with one update through Builder Trend on Friday every week. you know, and that's cool. They trust us. They know that we're the construction professionals. There are some people that want to know everything that's going on. So we need to find, like, it's kind of like a love language. It really is. Like, what is your love language? Like, how can we communicate with you in a way to where you feel heard and there is a level of transparency and, you know, to where you know what's going on and we know what you expect from us. We do have boundaries involved in that. Like, we're not going to answer phone calls at 9:00 at night, but a lot of it is, it's just like a marriage. It's just, how do we communicate that's suitable for you and suitable for us? And those are, when we're able to do that, those are great.
Yep. And it gets better every day. If you ask people that built with us a year ago versus people that are building today, people today are having a better experience. Even though people then had great experiences, it's always improving.
Mhm.
You know, it's always getting better. And we're committed to that. I mean, every aspect of it is getting better all the time. It's just the process changes all the time. So, all right, on the spot, funnest moment, either just in general in the company, like, best part, like, thing you could think of, or like coolest build or anything you've been a part of?
I don't know. I guess like the funnest part is just being a part of this in general. Like, I think, you know, we're not all just employees together. Like, we really are a tight knit group. We're more like a family, and I hate to use that in a business sense because you always hear people say, "Oh, that's the curse," but it really is. It's different with this company, and you know, we all look at the clients that way as well. Like, we're not just building for, it's not just a number for everybody, it's bringing everybody in, and we have a lot of camaraderie. So our day-to-day life is a lot of fun. Like, it's not a dread to come to work. If it is, you're definitely in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You're definitely the wrong person, because I don't know how you can dread this. Like, we have a good time. I don't know, the funnest build, there's been so many of them. It's really hard to pick through.
It's a
Yeah,
tough one, man.
it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
How about funnest quarterly or event that we've ever done?
My most favorite
Skeet
build, I
shooting.
can tell you right now.
Hey, man, you can't be just jumping in.
My most favorite, I'll give him one. It's Danny Godfrey's house.
I love that house. Absolutely.
I love that house. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
My bad. Danny Godfrey's
and
house.
Danny-
And he's
Danny
invited,
Godfrey
he's
was a
invited
great
us
guy.
We've been to parties there.
parties
Yeah.
at his house. He gave you
I
some,
love
like,
that house.
homemade whiskey and
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
it's been a-
It's like a little keg thing.
and the truth is, during the construction process, everything wasn't perfect. And
He
there
had the
was
same
frustrations
identical
and
thing.
stress,
Yeah.
but it's
Look,
just
Danny Godfrey and I had a
we
conversation
persevered.
one time, and he's told me, he said, "Heath, I just don't even want to have to think about this build." He said, "I just want it done and we're good." And this was back when I was
Poor
still
Dan.
involved with clients more. He said, "That's all I want." He said, "As long as I ain't got to think about it, I'm good to go."
Yep.
And like, that's, you know, we got Dan on the job, and I think that's really when he saw that improvement, was he didn't really have to worry about it as much. But that was a fun.
Well,
build.
there was
That
an
a good one.
understanding
let's
at
talk
the
about that
end.
one
Like,
second.
Dan, I love you, but
Yeah.
I just don't want to build. I
There
just
was
don't
a
want you to be
time,
my
though.
builder. I just want to be your friend.
It was a literal time where Danny was reaching out to TJ and he had complaints. He had situations.
Yeah.
And man, what a great experience. A great guy.
Mhm.
Because we finished on a good note. He was exactly what you said. He came with us the complaints and gave us an opportunity to say, hey, this is the reason why.
Yeah.
If you can work through that stuff, guys, we will finish and have parties at your house.
I mean, building a house is it's a stressful
It's
thing.
always
I mean,
stressful.
you're putting a huge investment in something. You're not really familiar with the process or how it works. So you've got somebody usually in your ear, and this happened to me. Like you were talking about, hey, you need to be there every day and checking behind them. And I told that. I was like, if I got to do that, I ain't building a house. I'll just go buy one. If I got to be there every day to check behind somebody. And I think that's part of it, is just trust the process, get through it, and you'll be good.
Yep, for sure. Narrowing it down to a favorite client would be impossible for me because
Yeah.
Danny is awesome. The Turners,
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal people. Marty Dipple and his wife Jen, like the great people. You know, like, and I still get random texts. They'll be like bull and crabs. And I'm like, dang, why can't you do that when I'm in town? You
Yeah.
know? But no, like, but
What's
like-
your favorite one?
Build. There's a lot of them, man. I think there's been some that were really unique because you got to think. I've been building houses a long time, but the barn dough concept was pretty new to me. So I would say some of the early ones, just because it was new to me. But I would say the Godfrey build, that one was a really cool one. There's been a bunch of them. I don't know. I don't want to be unfair.
What's your
I mean,
favorite experience? at Barndo?
I think just the camaraderie, some of the quarterlies. I do think it is rare to find people that are able to separate friendship and business. And I feel like the leadership and sub-leadership team of this company work well because we are able to do that. We don't always agree, but we always respect the other person's opinion or decision, or we respect the chain of command on things. But I would just say the overall camaraderie. I mean, it is a very stressful environment in this industry, but I love coming to work, and I've always been a hard worker, and I've always enjoyed working, but I've never had a career where I looked forward to coming to work, where I'm like, man, it's Sunday, and I'm like, looking forward to Monday. That has never been a thing for me in my life.
Yeah, it's funny. Every morning, I'm usually trying to rush my daughter out the door. Like, come on, we got to go. And it's not because I'm running late. It's because I'm ready to get to work. Like, I'm usually one of the first ones here, and it's usually early at that.
Y'all often say that clients are not just a number. I still think it's cool to this day that when you put them in Builder Trend, when they're a job, they're a little job name, a literal.
Yeah, we don't do the jobs by addresses.
Yeah.
It's by the client name.
No one.
And the only difference that we've had to do recently is now it's a last name, first name.
Yeah.
Because we're starting to get some repetitive last names.
It's never a situation like lot number 7, we're having a problem with them. It's always been like, hey, that's the situation at that family's house. That's a cool situation.
Yeah.
Even as large as we are.
Yep. And even though like now it's got like I've had to pull out of the RSB meetings where that was where I got to meet the clients, get to know them, and then they would start reaching out to me. And now I don't even see them, but I still relate that to, hey, this is a family. We see those pictures where they future front door signs and where they're putting their hands in the concrete. And I mean, it's a huge deal to a lot of people. It takes a big decision making with a family to build a house, and then the fact they chose us to do that for them, that's a big deal. It really is.
Heath knows every 2x4, every piece of glass, and every fixture that every client chooses on every house.
That's funny, man. Oh, heck yeah, guys. So we're going to move over to the barn burner segment of the podcast, and we're going to answer some questions. So barn burners is questions that have come up through either client interactions, questions directly to the company, on Facebook, social media. A lot of them come out of our Facebook groups, and Jenna does a good job of harvesting those and getting them in here so that we can answer those questions in a live setting. So put you guys on the spot. So the question was, can you share experience or pointers of different terrains when we go into build, because that's the biggest caveat to everything. Like the only differentiating factor normally is the lot and the land and the soils and everything into it. So can you provide some insight to different things from hill countries of Tennessee to the low countries of South Carolina?
I can tell you one thing on the low countries that really lands in my desk a lot is we don't make the codes. I can't help it. Your doors and windows is about to cost double what they will anywhere else.
Right.
And that's just part of it. You have a hurricane region, you got to have impact grade doors and windows.
Right.
And those typically are double the price of standard doors and windows, even DP50 wind rated windows. So that creates its own difficulty there because that drives the cost up of the build. So we can tell somebody, hey, it's this much. And then they get, well, I got to pay for all this. Talk to code officials. They make us put these in. We don't, and it's for your safety. Because, you got a hurricane throwing 2x4s everywhere off the house it ripped up next door. You don't want it shooting through your window.
Right. How about you?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of different things. I mean, I would say Eastern Tennessee and the Charleston and Horry County area are vastly different. And, we have really strict standards on our compaction tests. So sand is much harder to compact than a lot of other dirt. And every county that we build in have different things that they enforce, and every region that we build in have different things. So just the municipalities and what they expect on our structural drawings is vastly different. Mm-hmm. What the inspectors inspect through our inspections are vastly different. So just adapting to all these differences, and you might be in one county that has several different areas where one little pocket over here has higher winds ratings than this pocket over here. And it's just stuff that we, you know, have to figure out as we go, and not what county you're in, what part of the county you're in. There might be a county where, you know, a 30-minute drive, you have to have high impact windows and doors. But if you drive 30 minutes over here, it's not required. So just adapting to all those, you know, different requirements and code requirements and, you know, different dirt, all that. It's always a challenge.
Yeah, the dirt's huge, like especially like when you start getting in Tennessee.
Limestone.
It might look like dirt.
Rock.
And as soon as you scratch that first foot off, you realize it's just rock.
Yeah.
And then that's one of those things that we were talking about earlier. It just drives that grading cost up.
One of the very first times TJ and I were in the original building, there was a build in
Western North Carolina.
Pisgah Forest or something. And I asked those people, "Are you on flat ground?" They were like, "Oh, yeah, for sure." And I was like,
Ain't nothing in Pisgah flat.
let me ask you this. I said, if you pull your vehicle up on your lot and you put it in neutral, will it roll? They're like, no, not at all. We did the site visit the next week, and I was like,
Probably not because it hit
pull your
tree.
vehicle up there, knock it in neutral, and see if it don't go off this cliff.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you think the grading costs are going to be? Ross was like, $700,000. They're going to have to dynamite
like,
the mountain
What
out.
in the world?
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like a lot of people, they're like, yeah, it's flat, and you get out there, well, you don't realize, like looking at something, it may look flat, but there was a job Ross and I was on, and the guy's like, yeah, it's flat, and Ross was holding the transom over his head before it started beeping. it's all relative.
That is
like,
the
flat
reason
numbers.
why we include site visits and onboarding, guys,
Yes.
because we don't expect you to be a land expert, because in your mind it's flat, and your realtor said it was flat because they want to get paid to say a lot. Now we're going to come out there and figure it out. But man, I appreciate you guys coming and spend some time with us on the show. And you know, just hanging out and putting some faces to names and talk a little bit about the process, because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, even more than what people see. And it's always fun to get on here and chop it up with you guys. Plus, you know, it's fun to just get on here and be human.
Yeah.
And just show people a little glimpse of what it's like it's behind the scenes of Barndo. But I appreciate you guys, man. Thanks for coming on, and I'll see you at the office.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the Barndo Show podcast. If you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this content, hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And then be sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms at the Barndo Co. Super simple to find us. And then when you're ready to dive in a little more, maybe look around some of our available floor plan options, or take a look at the gallery of our work, or maybe you're ready to connect with our team and explore what it looks like to build your dream barndominium, you can visit us online at thebarndoco.com.